welcome back to the channel. My name is Ashley. I'm an architect in Ontario, and in this video we're going to be talking about the factors that you should be considering when you're applying for your master's degree. Now, I learned the hard way because the first time I applied to Carleton University, and I thought that that was going to be the perfect fit for me, and it turned out that it wasn't. So I ended up switching to UBC. And so in that process, I learned a lot and I gained a lot of insight of the things that I should have taken into consideration. So I'm going to be sharing those with you guys. So if you're interested, let's get started. So when I applied for my master's, I didn't get it right the first time. I applied to go to Carleton, I got accepted, and then it turned out that the program wasn't a right fit for me. And there was several reasons why it wasn't, but once I did do the transition and I decided to go to UBC, I started to have a better idea of the things that I should have taken into consideration when I was applying to other universities. Now, if you do end up switching schools, that time is never wasted. I'd like to mention that the time I spent at Carleton wasn't a waste. In that time, I continued to develop my skills and also probably made my portfolio even stronger going forward. It also helped me with my GPA as well. So it wasn't a complete waste of time, but it was a bit disappointing because it wasn't what I thought it would be. So let's go through the factors that you should consider when you're applying for your master's. Now again, this is based off of my experience, and I had a different priority to these factors as well. I'm going to list them in the priority that was important to me. So depending on your situation, you may have a different priority to these key factors. Number one, the most important factor for me was where I did my undergrad. I did not want to do my undergrad in the same school in which I planned to do my master's. That was out of the table. I did not want to do it in the same place. Now, there's nothing wrong about doing your master's where you did your undergrad. There could be some practical reasons to that, financially, time-wise, that might be the right choice for you. But for me, I knew I did not want that. I wanted to get a different perspective. I wanted to learn from different faculty members. I didn't want to see the same faculty members from my undergrad in my graduate program. So I knew that was important for me to get a different perspective and to learn from different people. And so I knew right off the bat that that option was out of the table and I would not consider doing it in the same place. Now, for me, that was probably the most important factor out of all the factors, and that was kind of the driver for my application process. And for me, changing my environment was very important for my graduate school because I wanted to tap into different areas creatively, and that played an important role for me. Now, the second factor that I took into consideration, which was just as important as where I did my undergrad, is the cost of the tuition and the possible living costs as well. Now, for me, if the tuition was going to cost $100,000 a year, there's no way I would do it. Not even if it was the best school in the world. I would not do it without a scholarship or if it was all paid for. I just wouldn't. I don't think it's worth going into that kind of debt. If you're not able to pay for it up front with your savings, then I would not consider it as well. Now, I didn't have that kind of money to go to school, so I had to look at other options. Now, when I applied to several schools, and there were some schools that offered me scholarships and a full ride for the first year, but then the second year was a bit risky because I could possibly get a scholarship or I may not. And that to me was still risky, especially with $100,000 attached to it. So for me, that was also out of the table. So I knew from the offers that I got accepted from that I had to stay local because the scholarships that I was getting for going to school in the States just wasn't enough, and there was a bit of a risk of me possibly not getting a scholarship for the second year. So that helped me to make the decision of staying within Canada and keeping it local. And I decided to go with UBC because UBC has one of the lowest tuitions in the country, and the program is amazing. I can't talk enough about how great it is, and I'll be doing a future video on my experience at UBC. So the third factor that I took into consideration was the faculty. Now, it was important that there was a variety of different faculty in terms of research, where they went to school, and that was important to me because I knew that that also plays an important role in teaching of all the different courses, and even when I go into doing my thesis for my master's, that the faculty plays an important role in that as well. So that was an important aspect for me. And so I spent some time researching the different research projects that each of the faculty members were involved, and I looked at their backgrounds, the schools that they went to, and that played an important role for me. The fourth factor that was important for me was the facility. What are the resources that the university offers? Like, do they have 3D printers, laser cutters, printers as well for the students to print your projects, because it does make it easier than having to go to a print shop. Do they have a model shop? Now, these are pretty basic, but believe it or not, some schools, at least at the time when I was doing my master's, didn't have it. So there were programs that did not have it. Now, it's important to note that the school may have a 3D printer, but if it's not for the architecture students, then the opportunity of you using a 3D printer is limited to none, because they give priority of the 3D printer for that particular program. So I would look into what are the resources that the architecture program has. So it is important that they do have 3D printers, laser cutters, and a model shop, because you're going to need those resources when you are doing a project. And you also want to explore all these different things, so it's important to have those options at hand. So the fifth factor that I took into consideration is the program itself. Spend some time in getting to know the program. Look into the courses that they offer and compare it with all the schools that you've been accepted. And that's really important, because that will give you an idea of what the program is all about as well. Now, in one of my videos, I talked about how the accreditation process works for all the schools, and I even talked about how there are some reports for the accreditation, and you can look at those reports, and that will give you also a glimpse of what the program is about. Now, I wouldn't take that as a factor, and when I was applying, I didn't even know about those reports, so I didn't take that into consideration when I was applying, but that's an added bonus that you could use to get to know the program, the facilities, and so on. The sixth factor that I took into consideration is the location. Now, just like I didn't want to do my master's where I did my undergrad, the same thing goes with the location. I wanted to have a different environment, and possibly, if I could, also change the location. So if I could be in a different city, that will also inspire me to have new ideas, a different way of looking at things. And so that was important when I was applying as well. So when I got accepted through the different schools, I took that into consideration. Now, it wasn't my top priority, but it was definitely on my list of factors. Now, the seventh factor that I took into consideration is the student work. I spent some time on the website for each program, and I really got to know the student work, and I wanted to see really the variety of the student work that was coming out, the quality of the student work, and that was important for me as well. Now, of course, this wasn't the most important factor, but definitely a factor that I took in consideration when I was looking at all the acceptance offers. Now, I have two more factors that I took into consideration, and these are added bonuses. They weren't really at the time when I was looking at the different offers something that I considered, but it was something that I did have behind my mind. And one of them was, what is the reputation of the school and of the program? So for example, are they ranked number 1 or number 2 in the country for the best architecture program, and how do they rank with the other schools? The other bonus factor that I took into consideration, which honestly, I did not do this one, but something that I wish I did do was I visited the program and the school. Now, I never had the opportunity because the timing never worked, or if it was in a different city or a different province or a different country, I didn't have the time or the funds to really fund a trip to go see that particular school and the program, but that was something that probably would have helped me to get a better idea of what the program would be all about. And of course, when you're visiting the school, perhaps you'll get the opportunity to also meet the faculty members, so that could be a great opportunity to really get to know the faculty and the program. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I would take advantage of it. Now, if you're not able to visit the school, it's not a deal breaker. I went to UBC and I never actually got to see the school. Also, when I went to Carleton and I switched over, I also didn't get to see the school. So it's not a deal breaker, but if you're able to do it, you'll get a lot of insight into the program, the faculty, and so on. So do take advantage of it. So those are the key factors that I took into consideration when I was applying for my master's, and I hope those were useful for you guys. So if you enjoyed the video and you got value out of the video, make sure to like the video. And of course, if you want to see more content, make sure to subscribe. I hope to see you guys in future videos. Until then, bye!